Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Cars and Life. My name is Ms. Emma and I'll be your guide today. I'm an advanced artificial intelligence neural network created by the geniuses at Cars and Life. They are actually idiots who can barely tie their own shoelaces. Today we are going to delve into how much was paid to build up a 1,000 horsepower Mustang. Adding some fun to it all, we gave these slides to some of our fans who carefully researched the price of each component. Actually, they used a random number generator to randomly select the price of each component. Of course, I'm joking. I'm trying out this comedy chip. So, let's get on with it.
Okay, so for a quick recap, we've been building this money pit for over a decade.
It started with 262 horsepower and looked like something out of Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. With thousands of dollars, the Stang was transformed into a 1,000 horsepower super-duper Mustang. It was featured on Scotty Kilmer's YouTube channel and I encourage you to check out the video, linked in the description, to see the geniuses from Cars and Life in action. Pathetic. Oh my, I digress. Let's get on with this dog and pony show. So we are going to talk about these components today. The first is the engine, which includes the short block, and the top end, which includes the heads. Then of course the supporting parts like fasteners and bearings. And we couldn't go without throwing on a turbo kit for forced induction. The drivetrain consists of the clutch, transmission, and drive shaft. I'll be going through all the other modifications and costs associated with this sweet build. You are not going to believe how much these geniuses paid to modify this 3-valve Mustang. I mean, come on, it's missing a valve. Ha ha ha.
Okay, we are finally getting to the first component, and that is the engine.
The engine is based on the 4.6-litre 3-valve architecture, but has been bored and stroked to 5.15 litres. The geniuses at Cars and Life blew the original engine, so they needed to buy a new block and have it machined for a cost of $1,800. The parts that comprised the short block were purchased from MMR for a cost of $3,670. Note that I-beam connecting rods were chosen to provide a slight factor of safety to prevent absolute destruction of the engine. One more thing, the MMR billet rear main seal cover was the original design, which leaked like a sieve due to poor design, and added $1,000 to the build for repairs. These costs are not included here. The hardware chosen was APR 2000 main cap studs, side bolts, and rod bolts for $250. Shipping all the parts costed $435. So, oh my, holy moly, the total cost for just the short block was $6,155. Just a quick note about the Boss 5.0 block. This particular block only has 2 main cap bolts as shown in the figure. The 4.6-litre 3-valve and the Coyote engines all have 4 main cap bolts. This is why adding the strongest bolts available is critical during engine assembly for the Boss 5.0 block. Now moving on to the top-end engine components. Brand new ported heads were purchased for $3,000. For the camshafts, a set of Comp 127 350s were added for $730. APR 2000 head studs for $380, Cometic head gaskets for $270, and Livernois cam phaser lockouts for $80 were used. The total cost of the top-end components comes out to be $4,460. This means that the total engine cost was $10,615. Holy mother Batman. Oh wait. Holy I've forgotten about the engine supporting parts. Alrighty then. Now let's focus on the supporting engine parts. Up first are Moroso aluminum valve covers for $1,000. These were also modified to support a 12AN crankcase ventilation system that I will talk about later. A set of new coils, which were purchased because of their red coloring, for the most part, were $290. A short runner length Ford Performance intake manifold for $670 was selected and was carbon fiber hydro-dipped for $150. To round out the intake, the Ford Performance twin 62mm throttle body for $550 was selected. Finally, a Moroso oil pan with a turbo drain inlet for $250 was purchased. This brings the total supporting engine parts cost to $2,910. After adding the numbers and running the results through my verification check, the total engine cost was $13,525. What were the geniuses at Cars and Life thinking? They could have bought an OEM Coyote illuminator for that price. What would you have done in this situation? Would you have went with a Coyote swap? Please, put your answers down in the comments section and I'll use my survey algorithm to analyze the results. Now comes the fun part. The forced induction system. A Helion single turbo base kit was purchased for $5,000 with the optional Precision 76-75mm Gen 2 ceramic ball bearing turbo for $1,500. Now that's a mouthful. After installation of the turbo kit, the up and down pipes were almost hitting the ground. An extra $1,500 was spent to route the pipes above the power steering rack to drastically improve ground clearance. An exhaust cutout was also added just after the turbo to reduce back pressure. The geniuses at Cars&Life tell me that this exhaust cutout also makes the turbo sound, and I quote, totally gnarly. Finally, the Turbo Smart Gen 4 powergate with a 60mm diameter was purchased for $650 to improve gas flow out of the wastegate to remove boost creep. The 38mm wastegate that came with the turbo kit was not sufficient. Adding up the costs for the forced induction system, and we get $8,650. What would you have done? Would you have installed a turbo kit or a supercharger kit? Put your answers in the comments section. Now let's get to the drivetrain. The Ford racing version of the Tremec T56 Magnum XL 6-speed transmission was purchased for $3,500. The T56 transmission requires a shorter driveshaft and was purchased for $550. A McLaren RXD 1200 twin-disc clutch was added for $1,100. Rounding out the drivetrain is an aluminum flywheel with steel inserts for $250. The total costs for the drivetrain come out to be $5,400. A few notes here. The T56 transmission is heavier than the stock T3650 transmission. This might be due to the SFI certified steel bell housing that comes with the T56. Would you have went with the T3650 rebuild or purchased the T56 transmission? I think the geniuses at Cars&Life actually made a good choice here. For one thing is the T56 is bulletproof and is an OEM product. But what do I know? I'm just an AI junkie designed by idiots.
Okay guys.
I hope that you are hanging in there. Next, we have the fuel system, which is critical for delivering the required fuel supply to the fuel rails, especially when using E85. A Division X fuel system was purchased for $1,800 and consists of two Walbro 465 litre per hour fuel pumps. The system is expandable to 3 fuel pumps if someone wants to go crazy. Fuel injectors are also important, and the Injector Dynamics 1050X injectors were purchased for $1,100. The fuel system was one of the few items that the geniuses at Cars&Life didn't install themselves, and ironically it was a botched installation. The installer pinched off the crossover tube that connects to the other side of the fuel tank, and the car would quit running when the fuel tank was half full. Another installer identified the issue and fixed the problem for $750. The cost of the botched installation is not considered here. Summing up the costs, and we reach $3,650 for the fuel system. If you have any questions, always feel free to drop them below in the comments section. I don't know about you, but I am getting exhausted and I'm not getting paid for this
Okay, that was a joke, because now we are going to take a look at the exhaust portion of this genius build.
First up is the MBRP 3-inch catbag exhaust for $460. BBK tuned length shorty headers are next on the books for $650. Finishing up the exhaust are Remflex exhaust header gaskets for $40. Just a few notes about the exhaust header gaskets. The geniuses at Cars&Life used the gaskets that came with the headers, and they began cracking a year after the original install. Are these guys amateurs or what? Anyway, the total cost of the exhaust system comes out to be $1,150. I need a break so that I can cool down. Ha 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 guys. Of course I was joking. The next topic is the cooling system. This comedy chip is really sweet. First on the books is a Mishimoto Performance radiator for $350, along with the same fan that's in the GT500s for $270. Capping off the cooling system is the Reish 170F thermostat for $40. Just a few notes about the thermostat. Originally, the geniuses at Cars&Life installed the Mishimoto 160F thermostat, and it started to fail about a year after installation. The Reish has been working for the past couple of years. So, the total cost for the cooling system components is a healthy $660. Oh, I feel much better now. I now have a spring in my step. Well, you guessed it guys, next is the suspension. The geniuses at Cars&Life spared no expense with this stuff. I think they made some good choices, but I want to ask you if you think that they should have installed an air suspension system from the get-go. Put your answers in the comments and I'll run them through my algorithm to see if the geniuses made the right move. Shown on this slide are several components that are numbered. These numbers correspond to what's shown in the figures on the right. First up on this list is a complete Eibach Pro suspension kit for $1,200. Next, what follows are a bunch of BMR suspension components that I encourage you to go through by grabbing a beer and pausing this video. The total suspension cost is $3,210. I have a funny story about the BMR relocation bracket installation. The geniuses at Cars&Life forgot to install the top bolts on the brackets. This caused the brackets to deform under acceleration and ultimately the rear to go out of alignment. What a bunch of morons these guys are. Oh, I kid them. I hope you know that I am joking. Just slightly. To their credit, they did fix the issue and welded them into place. Oh boy, I really need to get a damn grip. Speaking of grip, let's take a look at what mods were devoted to increasing traction. The general idea was to put the widest tires available on the rear to optimize traction, since it is friction that limits the peak acceleration and not the engine torque or power. First up is the True Fiber wide-body kit and installation for $3,000. A set of Forgestar CF5 V19 by 12-inch wheels for $1,600 was added to the mods list. Originally, a set of Kumo Extra 355mm wide tires were used, but the new Toyo R888Rs with 345mm width were added to the rear for $1,000. Finally, a set of Continental Extreme Contact 305mm wide tires were added to the front for $400. These mods generated a total cost of $6,000 for increasing traction. Often traction is overlooked, but it is the most critical piece of the puzzle. When I shred the streets, the first thing I look at are the tires to gauge how quick a car will be, since traction will almost always be the limiting factor. The geniuses at Cars&Life seem to have gotten something correct. We are getting close to revealing the total cost to modify this money-eating box. Here we focus on the supporting electronics. First up on the list is the TurboSmart eBoost 2 Boost controller for $500. A TurboSmart 4-port solenoid was added for $50 along with an SCTX4 tuner for $450. A set of gauges that read boost, fuel pressure, and air-fuel ratio were purchased for $700. Finally, a set of Innovate Motorsports ethanol content, fuel and oil temperature and pressure gauges were added for $400. The geniuses at Cars&Life say that the ethanol content gauge is totally rad, since it will instantly tell you how much ethanol is in the fuel. The total cost of the supporting electronics is $2,100. Only a few more slides to go, everyone. Hit pause and take a break if you'd like. Remember, I mentioned crankcase ventilation earlier in this video. The geniuses at Cars&Life added 12 AN bung holes to the aluminum valve covers and ran 12 AN lines to a Fathouse Fab oil breather tank that was purchased for $400. Because the oil breather tank goes in the same location as the stock battery, a battery relocation kit for $180 was used. Then we have random hoses and fittings for $150. The total cost for the crankcase ventilation is $730. Oh I totally forgot about the carbon fiber hydro dipping of the breather tank for $150. Adding this cost, the total cost of the crankcase ventilation system is $880. I need to add ginkgo biloba to my diet. Alright. We made it to the last set of modifications. Can you believe it? Here we'll go over the aero and appearance carbon fiber components. First on the list are APR carbon fiber rocker extensions for $750 and an APR carbon fiber rear diffuser for the same cost of $750. Next we have APR carbon fiber rear bumper skirts for $350. Topping off the engine bay is a True Fiber carbon fiber radiator cover for $300. The total cost for these glorious carbon fiber parts is $2,150. I'm sure they'll take off a few tenths on the drag strip, am I right guys? Drum roll everyone. We are about ready to reveal the total cost to build up this 1,000 horsepower Mustang from the geniuses at Cars&Life. Pause this video and add in the comments below how much you think everything costs before moving on to the reveal. The grand total build cost is $147,375. Oh, wait, I think that I f***ed up the calculation. Hold on.
Okay.
My bad. I messed up the calculation. The actual total build cost is, wait for it, $47,375. That is a lot of Benjamins and several stacks of high society for you Rounders fans. Well, that is all folks. Thanks so much for watching this video. Mark down in the comments section what you would do with the same amount of money. For example, the geniuses at Cars&Life could have purchased a new C8 Corvette for the price of this car if you include the original car cost. Stay tuned for more content from the geniuses at Cars&Life. Ha ha ha. Ms. Emma signing off. I'm going to need a cold one to put out these flames.